Okay, wait a minute. First of all, that food looks delicious. Can somebody pack me a little to go? Because we didn't get one.
We didn't.
So enjoy the food and somebody pack me a little, because it looks good, the mashed potatoes especially.
Yes, and the tri-tip, I heard it's delicious, and I also saw some chocolate cake there. So please, if my husband is listening, pack me one. Thank you. All right. Okay, so now we are going to. Would you have it? Okay, now so we welcome Amanda Renteria from the National Political Campaign Director for Hillary for America.
She was enjoying her food a little too much.
When you're on a presidential, you get used to running everywhere. So I apologize. First of all, I just want to start out by saying thank you for having me here. There's two different reasons I'm excited to be here. Over the course of this campaign, over the 500 days plus I've been on it, I've been traveling around the country, but there's nothing like coming home. And this is my home state, so it's great to be back. Pero the other thing is that my dad is a small business owner. So when I told him, hey Dad, I'm talking to the Hispanic Chamber, what should I say? And his answer was, mija, give them the bottom line. So it's a real honor and pleasure to be with you today. I am Amanda Renteria, y como dice mi papá, Renteria, o como dice mi abuela, Amanda que manda. So feel free to use either one. But as I've been here tonight and hearing the different stories of folks up on the stage, it reminds me that it's a little odd that I'm here. Because I grew up in a little town in the Central Valley of California que se llama Woodlake. My dad is Zacatecano. Todos que están de Zacatecas. My dad is Zacatecano. My mom is Mexican American, and they started out as migrant farm workers in the fields. I ended up becoming the first woman and the first Latina from my high school to go to Stanford University. Thank you. I later went on to Harvard Business School, and then I served in the United States Senate for 9 years and became the first Latina chief of staff in the United States Senate. And in 2013, I said, I've been so lucky, I've been blessed with being able to be a part of the United States Senate, being able to be a part of creating policies around the world. Now what? And what I learned over my life is you never forget where you came from. And so in 2013, I went back home and I ran for Congress. And it's really interesting to go back where you came from and knock on doors, because you get a chance to see where you started and what's happened since. And as I went door by door, what I realized is kids that were like me, it had become a bit harder, especially when you grow up in one of the poorest counties across the country, especially when you grow up in one of the largest undocumented populations, especially when you grow up where schools aren't as good as they are in everywhere else in the state or in the country. And even though if I would have won, I would have been the first woman from the Central Valley to have won a seat to Congress. I would have been the first Latina, the first Hispanic male or female to win a seat north of LA. What I started to learn is it wasn't about being a first, it was making sure I wasn't the last. Because someone somewhere said my parents belonged in this country. Someone somewhere said my mom was a secretary for the schools, but she should have health care for her kids. Someone somewhere said, sí, mi papá, he was Mexicano, but he should also get access to capital to start a small business. It depends what the policies are. It matters what the policies are. And so when Hillary Clinton called me in February 2015, long before we were out on the race, she asked me to join her campaign. And to be honest, I knew a little bit about her in the Senate, but I didn't know a lot. So I started to look at her history. And the first thing I noticed is that she was in Texas, knocking on doors, in La Frontera, knocking on doors, telling our community, people like us, to say your vote matters. That was 40 years ago. Not when everyone was saying it's great to go out and get the Latino community. Not before people knew who she was, and not before she was running for president. She was knocking on doors like I was knocking on doors, but 40 years ago. And it didn't stop at the Latino community. She was in Massachusetts going door to door, when in this country, we didn't give everyone educational opportunity, including people who had disabilities. So she was going door to door in Massachusetts looking for kids who had disabilities and saying, you too deserve an education. And then she went to Alabama, posing as a parent to make sure that private schools weren't discriminating against African American kids. That's what she did when nobody knew who Hillary's name was. And that matters to me, because those are the people that build the path for the future. Those are the people that make it possible for all of us to be here, for me to be here, because they fought for people not quite like them, but knowing that if they can make the path a little better, our country would be better. And so when I joined this campaign, I knew that. I knew she had done that. But then on this campaign, I got a chance to see it front and center. So this morning, I started my day out in Flint, Michigan with Chelsea. Because when she heard about Flint, she asked her advisors to go down and figure out what happened. She was running for president, but she took the time to say, I need someone to go down and see if we can help in any way. I happen to be one of those someones that went down to figure out how can we help. Not only did we obviously raise awareness, but today I got the chance to hear how we ended up bringing philanthropists, the chamber, the churches together to actually take kids in Flint, give them jobs to help with the recovery. The only nonprofit who did that at the time. And now there's 80 kids out there who are empowered because of the work we did. That didn't make the headlines. You probably didn't read it in the papers. But that makes a difference in real people's lives. And then when she heard about Zika, nobody was talking about Zika. But our brothers and sisters, our Latino brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico, in Puerto Rico, Boricua, in Puerto Rico, in the poorest communities actually knew about Zika. You know why? Because there's standing water in certain places in Puerto Rico that doesn't go away very quickly. And that's where the mosquitoes are. And that's where pregnant women are in trouble if they get bit by a mosquito, because Zika actually has a very strong correlation with what might happen with your pregnancy. So she sent me and a colleague of mine down to Puerto Rico before anyone was talking about it to go figure out what can we do to help. This is somebody who does listen to voices that others don't. This is somebody, and most importantly, we're all business people in here, who does something about it. And that makes all the difference in real people's lives. So I want to point out that one of the things I'm most proud of is when she first started this campaign and she says, Amanda, I'm going out to the West Coast, what should I do? I want to sit with some Latinos, I want to sit with some young folks, I want to sit. And the suggestion came up, which is, you know, we talk a lot about immigration reform. People don't know what the stories are. She says, great, let's showcase them. And that's what we did in Nevada. A lot of people talk about the Dreamers Circle. That's what it was all about. It wasn't about her having a conversation, actually. It was about bringing up the voices of these amazing kids who were a lot like all of us, whose parents had worked really hard and all they wanted was a chance at the American dream. And we thought if we could showcase that, that would help us with immigration reform. We didn't expect Trump, to be honest. But not for a second has she backed down from the argument. So it's not just that she showcased those stories, but that we brought policy to follow along. And so to this day, you may have heard, in the first 100 days, I am so excited about seeing the legislation that she will bring forward for all those kids that we sat down with at the very beginning to say, you are part of America, you've always been part of America, and you have a chance at the American dream too. We talk about 3 things on this campaign, and you'll hear them over the next 46 days. I think we're almost at 45 days now. Number 1 is building an economy that works for everyone, not just those at the top. That matters to everyone here. And the reason is because if you've read any of our policy, there's a couple things you would see. You would see that debt-free college matters. For Hispanic communities across the board, our communities are the communities that show up with debt everywhere. I remember not wanting to tell my parents how expensive Stanford was, because they might send me back home. And that's why I tried out for the basketball team and the softball team and earned an athletic scholarship, because I didn't want to tell them they had to pay for it. I was going to figure out a way, and I did. But it shouldn't take that. We should know when we go in as students that we're not afraid, because there's something there to catch us. So debt-free college matters to everyone here in the Hispanic community across the country. So this is the one thing my dad told me I had to tell everybody, porque he always tells me about the taxes. Hillary Clinton has a proposal that we would have a standard deduction for small businesses. So you wouldn't have to do your receipts. I had to translate that for my dad. And so you don't have to do your receipts, but a standard deduction, just like you have for individual filers, but for small businesses. The third thing within this realm, minority-owned businesses and the percentage of federal contracts isn't anywhere where it should be. And so part of our proposal is making sure that minority-owned businesses get federal contracts as well. Second in that same category is making sure that we are actually looking at communities all across the country, underserved communities, Latino communities, African-American communities, AAPI communities, and making sure that there's access to capital and that banks are really thinking about our communities of color all across the country. Thank you. And the last piece of that is the opportunity to go from small business to medium business, from medium business to large business. That is where our communities of color, Latino, Hispanic-owned businesses really need that injection, is making sure banks can actually assess risk in the appropriate way and believe us when we say, if we make it, Latinos will buy it. Because we know our community. And the fact that there are times where Latino-owned businesses, they don't believe our business model, it's time to change that. Because we do know our business model. We can actually sell to anybody. And in fact, we might have more innovative ways to do so. And so the idea of pushing businesses, banks, community banks, credit unions to say, what does your distribution of capital look like? And if it's not quite with where our business, our Latino business or Hispanic business owned demographics looks like, why not? And let's figure that out. So I'm excited to work on that. To our veterans in the room, the second thing you will hear us talk about is what does it take to be a commander-in-chief? Everyone recognizes Hillary Clinton's experience being commander-in-chief. And quite a lot of people are beginning to look at perhaps what Trump's commander-in-chief's experience is. I want to say it because I have family that has served. And when you think about that ultimate question of serving our nation, you want a commander-in-chief who is building allies, not praising people like Putin, understanding what it takes to actually do peace accords with all of our friends around the world, not offending them. It's not funny, it's not a reality show, it's not a joke. It's Latino kids who are out in our veterans community fighting on our behalf, and we need a commander-in-chief who understands the seriousness of what that means. Thank you. So this last part is the part that I've been involved in from the very beginning. As a political director, as I explained it to my mom, she said, "Mija, what do you do as a political director?" And as I explained it to my mom, "Mom, I'm trying to build the biggest tent that's ever been built." That's what I said at the beginning. And I mean it. Because when we first started out, we didn't have the Dreamer Circle. We didn't have Carla Ortiz, the Nevada, who had come and talked about her mom, who was a DAPA recipient. We didn't have Mothers of the Movement, who was out there. We didn't have the Khan Gold Star family, who stood on the stage and said, "My kids served too." My job was to try and start to seed what Stronger Together meant. And I couldn't be more proud of what Hillary Clinton has done with Stronger Together. I couldn't be more proud of really bringing stories to the forefront. And central to that is our Hispanic community. What I didn't know at the beginning is how personal this would become. What I didn't know at the beginning is that Trump would have started his campaign off building a wall and demonizing Mexican immigrants. And not only did he go after Mexican immigrants, but he went after Judge Curiel, born in Indiana, did everything right. But he was of Hispanic heritage, like all of us. And I've been excited to see that a lot of my conversations aren't just with Democrat Latinos, but they're with Republicans and independents. Carlos Gutierrez, a Bush appointee, Cuban Republican, is on air for us right now in Florida. As he says, country first. And he also recognizes that we are stronger together as Latinos. Rosario Marin, a Republican, Bush appointee. Yeah, some of you might know her in this room. Bush appointee, Mexican immigrant, born in El DF. Actually, her name is on some of our dollar bills. She's with us. She is stronger together because she realized the Latino community now is a time for all of us to get together. I couldn't be more proud of seeing Cabinet Secretaries Tom Perez, Julian Castro, a colleague of mine. We're coming together. So I'm going to end with this. As I said, I grew up in the Central Valley. And every now and then on Sundays when I was little, my dad would take us, my sisters and I, to big day, Sunday's best. We're all dressed up. Ahora vamos a ir al restaurante, right? It was like a Denny's. And we'd go into Denny's, we'd be all excited. And over time, we got to know that when we came in and we saw another family that came in, my dad would notice, we'd all notice. And sometimes our food wouldn't come. And we would notice that the family next to us not only got their food, finished eating, and we knew that when that check came to that other family is about the time my dad would stand up. And he would say, "Ya vamos, let's go," right? Sisters and I would stand up, three of us, we knew, we'd walk out, my younger sister would start crying, I would look at her, I'd start crying, my older sister would try and keep us, settled. get in the car and we'd be crying because we didn't get our strawberry French toast or whatever it was. And my dad would tell us, "Mija, stand tall." And like this would happen way more often than I'd like to remember. And it was several years later when I had my own boys that I said, "Dad, why did you do that? You know, like it wasn't fun. You and Mom would start fighting. We'd all be crying. Why?" And he said, "Two things, Mija. I needed you girls to know that when you are disrespected, you don't stand and wait for the check. You get up and you do something about it." He said, "But the second thing, we knew a lot of those people in that restaurant. Some of them were our neighbors. Some of them you knew, some of you didn't. But we needed to send a message that we expected to be respected. We expected to be respected." And Mija, everybody was watching. Everybody was watching when we walked out of that restaurant. This election, everybody is watching. Whether we like it or not, everyone is watching what our community is doing and is gonna do in this election. Not just here in this country, but around the world. I spent time with the ambassador of Italy this week, talked to the ambassador of Spain this week because they were all at the UN in New York. Everybody wants to know what the Hispanic community is gonna do. I will do my best to do everything I can to make sure we vote. But for the next 46 days, I need everyone in this room to do everything they can. Because on November 9th, I don't just want to beat Donald Trump overwhelmingly. I want to see the headlines. I want my kids, Diego y Trinidad, to see the headlines that Latinos, Hispanics around our country understood that this was the moment we can seize the power that we have and the voice of our future. There is no more important thing for us for the next 46 days that will define us and our future for our kids. Thank you very much for having me.
I don't know how you get sleep, but I want to say thank you for doing all that you did. Can we give her another round of applause, please? We'd now like to go to our award, and to present the next award, we have Frank Montes, Chairman of the Board of the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. Frank.
Wow. I bet before I announce the awardees, we have some of our chambers here, our new affiliates. Pepe, where you at? With the Riverside Black Chamber of Commerce. Tammy Riles, where you at, Tammy? Tammy, where you at? Tammy? Woo-woo? Okay. Tammy is the president of the Black Chamber of Commerce Inland Empire. Where is the Asian Business Association? Where are they at? Thank you, thank you. And we also got Mayor Richard de la Rosa from the beautiful city of Colton. Where's my mayor? Mayor? There he is, over there. Thank you, Mayor, for being here. I've always said, don't give me scripts, because I'm going to mess it up. Do I have to read it? Okay. Executive of the Year Award. What does that mean? To be an executive director means you got to deal with the board, means you got to deal with the sponsors, means you got to deal with your members. That's tough, because that's one job I would never do. I don't have the temperament for that. But you'd have to love what you do. An executive director is the difference from success and failure. These two individuals have been very successful in representing the Latino community, very successful in representing small business, very successful on moving their chambers forward. And they're both near and dear to my heart. One of these gentlemen that I'm going to call up right now is Carlos Soronsoro from the Nicaraguan Chamber of Commerce, and I'm from Nicaragua. You know, first Nicaraguan chairman ever. Don Carlos, please come up. This man has worked tirelessly for the Latino community. Tío.
And I got the mic. Buenas noches, mi gente. Primero, felicidades en la Semana de la Independencia de México y de Centroamérica. Muchas felicidades. Siempre pa'lante. Second, what an honor following the lady that was speaking to it. Okay? And I mind you, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican either. Because they need to serve better our needs than what they're doing now. So we're going to hold them accountable for what they're doing. I'm an independent, but I will vote, you know for who. My name is Carlos Solórzano. I'm the CEO of the Hispanic Chambers of Commerce of San Francisco, which are the Nicaraguan American, the Guatemalan American, the Bay Area Central American, AKA El Salvador and Honduras, the Latin America and Caribbean Business Chambers of Commerce. So when you talk about it, having bosses, I got like 25 bosses. But what I do because I believe in our community. I am from Chinandega, Nicaragua, nicaragüense por gracia de Dios. And I came to this country back in the 60s because three names that I'm going to say. First, God, because without him, we're nobody. Second, my father, Carlos Solórzano, who passed away 2 months ago in New York. He loved New York. We cremated him and we put his ashes on the Hudson River without permission, by the way. But he was the biggest entrepreneur I know. We have cotton, we have cattle, we have tobacco, we have rabbits, we have bees, everything that he could think of to do business, to work for himself. And my biggest teacher, my best teacher ever for running a business, my mother, Vilma. My mom is 86 years old and still is doing it. She taught me how to be a business manager. She managed the balances of the economy in my house. She was the transportation planner who's going to pick up the kids here and there. She was the event planner for quinceañeras and bautizos and everything else. She knew how to make the money last all the way to the end of the month. And we all know that, okay? And to this country, she still was helping us out. So I dedicate this to them. I dedicate this to my board of directors, to the community, to the Latino community, because we are the heart. You know how a brother says they have soul? We have a spice. And without spice, you don't eat, right? So from the bottom of my heart, with all the years and with all the colleagues that I have, I love you all. Because what we do it because we believe We believe in who we are. We believe in what we can do. And we're going to show it pretty soon when the voting comes out to it. Okay? As I service in the military in this country because I love it, because I believe. Semper Fi y siempre pa'lante. La comunidad latina es lo mejor que tenemos. Hay que demostrarlos. Obama va para afuera, la Hillary viene para adentro. Con razón. Saludos. Thank you. And it's dedicated to my 3 sons born in this country and to my wife Marta. I love you all.
Y ahora soy yo quien lo digo. Escucha que tú también lo...
The second Executive of the Year award goes to Teresa Martinez from the Los Angeles Latino Chamber of Commerce. Now, knowing Teresa, she was here earlier, but she had to go take care of chamber business. That's how we do it. So accepting the award for Teresa is Yolanda Padilla from the gas company. Yolanda.
I'm sorry. Unfortunately, Teresa had to leave early today, but my name is Yolanda Padilla, Southern California Gas Company, and I'm one of the corporate board members for the Los Angeles Latin Business, Chamber of Commerce. I just want to thank you all for this award and recognition. Thank you so much.
I just want to repeat what Carlos said prior. Como dijo él, pa'lante, pa'lante, que para atrás ni para coger impulso. Los latinos somos así, pa' todo pa'lante. But please do not panic. This time I know exactly who's next, okay? So don't panic. Okay, so now we have Bernadette Medrano from the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce Foundation Board Secretary and CAPS Committee.
Good evening, everyone. Several months ago, I had the privilege to see something amazing. Growing up in the city all my life, I never realized how food gets to our table. As part of the CAPS program, I was able to take a trip to Los Baños, where I got to see how our fruit and vegetables, our fuel that keeps us alive, is grown and processed. This is a very important aspect of our life that is often taken for granted. Many families are behind this very important task that is so essential to our community. I am honored to award this man and his family for all their hard work. On behalf of CAPS, I would like to give the Asparagus Award to Mr. Joe Del Bosque of Del Bosque Farms.